Hello, everybody. This is a Lasershutzfilter. It's made in Germany. I know that because I know Schutz means protection. So this is a laser protection filter. I'm protecting myself from all of those lasers that are out there trying to get me. I'm pretty sure it's post World War II. It is terribly heavy. I don't know how heavy it is, but probably 15 pounds. And even though it looks kind of antiquated, I'm guessing 83. A Laserschutz filter. Looking for the truth. And I'm protecting myself from those who might be in a very clandestine fashion out to get me. I don't want to be too light, but just for those of you who have no idea at all what This Is Was TV might be attempting to do, this is sort of a preview of that. I've planned really, really hard today to try not to plan too much so you could get a sense of what This Is Was TV does. This is really the place where a lot of the ideas are, what would be the word, incubated, I guess. This is kind of like a more mysterious and darker word. This would be the cauldron in which the ultimate intellectual soup is boiled. I've got some things to show you, which is what I do on This Is Was TV. Do things just designed to sort of generate thought and explain a little bit about what I do, what I'm up to, etc., etc. So, this is a book. It's an old book, Existentialism, from Dostoevsky to Sartre, right? Nice introductory work to existentialism. You should take a look. This is a book on Rilke. People who know me know that I love Rainer Maria Rilke, and particularly his poem, Ich lebe mein Leben in wachsenden Ringen. I live my life in widening rings. I think it's a great message for all of us. We should continue to expand our experiences, right? So we have more to offer when we engage in discussion, and life is just richer when you do that. Here's a sort of a coffee table book, thus the cup of coffee and a cigarette. You know, existentialists are famous for smoking cigarettes because if all that matters is your existence and you happen to love cigarettes, well, there you go. Nice little brief study on existentialism. This is kind of new, not really, probably from 2014 or so. I'm a big fan of Slavoj Žižek, or Slavoj Žižek, probably our greatest living edgy philosopher. This is called The Year of Living Dangerously. He speaks a great deal of how we're manipulated into doing things through images, rhetoric, etc., contemporary life itself, I suppose. Here's another study on existentialism. I really like this book and highly recommend it, At the Existentialist Cafe by Sarah Blackwell. I love the subtitle, Freedom, Being, and Apricot Cocktails. One of the, back in the day, and I'm talking about 40 some odd years ago, one of the first cocktails I had that I just fell in love with and drank them for years are apricot sours. They're quite yummy. And apparently existentialists liked apricot cocktails as well. So there you go. That's a good read. I do want to go back to something before I go on. Please remember, this is not my studio. Now, this is not where This Is Was TV is shot. That is shot at the other end of the house in the wrecked room, right? In this book, which I reread all the time, there is a marker, a bookmark, right? It is out of a Chinese fortune cookie. I kept it. It says, "You are of," well, maybe I can show it to you. I wonder if that's possible. You can read it yourself, right? "You are of double character." Ooh, then it's a little too hard for me backwards. And an active socialite and a serious thinker. If you are watching this now, I think that applies to you. I think that's why it was stuck in this book. It's a message from the Chinese fortune cookie fortune manufacturers. And I found it to slip into this page of this book in order to share with you today. Another thing that you might find of interest, this is a journal called White Fungus. White Fungus. I'm not sure if it exists, but I saw it somewhere, and I had to, if it still exists, and I just had to pick it up. I just had to. Great image right there. Sort of a postmodern sort of approach, as you can tell. Welcome to White Fungus, Issue 9, a sermon from under a rock from Wellington, New Zealand. I just had to get it. Lots of interesting things in here. City Cloth and Book. Fascinating image. I like to share images on top of just sort of regular sort of text. This is interesting. Very interesting. I like thinking about things like that. Here's something else. I'm guessing this is some sort of sound band, noise band. I'm guessing from New Zealand. I like that very much as well. Ooh, one more. This is a nice image too. All from White Fungus down there in New Zealand. Someone, one of you out there right now, should look it up and see if they still exist. Let's see, what else did I want to show you? I'm also fascinated by the New York Review of Books. Those of you who have watched This Is Was TV Live know this. I'm also fascinated by the fact that these things come to us from the future, even today, which is February 19th. I've had this for a few days now, and it's the March 8th, 2018 issue. From the future to my mailbox. It's absolutely amazing. Even though I've been sick this weekend, we've had a long time off at our school because a number of people are sick, including me. And the sad thing is I'm not getting better. I'm actually getting worse. But there have been a number of things that I have liked in this issue. I always like to share this sort of thing. This is a piece on surreal anthropology. It's absolutely fascinating. It was talking about some ethnography that was done in, I think, Africa. Yeah, well, it's actually a review of the book Phantom Africa. It's really, really, really interesting. Something I didn't know a whole lot about. This is an article, a review. The New York Review of Books is full of reviews. This is a review of Mad as Hell About What? This is a review of the new theatrical production of the old movie Network, which came out in 76 or 77. Absolutely one of my absolute favorites. And the play just debuted in London, and you should go see it. It's the one where the newscast, well, I won't give it away, but it's cultural criticism, right? And I love cultural criticism. Also, there's a piece on the impossibility of being Oscar, meaning Oscar Wilde. There's Oscar Wilde, the big figure, sitting with Toulouse-Lautrec, the diminutive figure, but simply in body size, right? Toulouse Lautrec in the art world was just as much of a giant as Oscar Wilde was in the literary world. Let's see, one more piece that I'll share with you, recommend to you, and then we'll let the New York Review. Oh, I guess I have to mention two things. Far from the Tree, Priest of Narrative. They're reviewing the book Priest of Narrative, The Religious Worlds of Isaac Newton. Absolutely fascinating. I had no idea, oh, that's a William Blake illustration from back in the day. I had absolutely no idea, according to this, that Newton's real interest was just as intense regarding philosophy and biblical scholarship as it was with all that numeric stuff, you know, calculus and physics and blah, blah, blah. Here's another piece that I discovered that's absolutely fascinating. It is called In the Cauldron at Midnight, right? And it is simultaneously reviewing 3 books, which is why I love the New York Review of Books. It is reviewing Farewell to the Muse, Love, War, and the Women of Surrealism by Whitney Chadwick. Simultaneously reviewing Down Below by Lenora Carrington with an introduction by Marina Warner. And The Complete Stories of Leonora, I guess it's Leonora, with an introduction by Catherine Davis, translated from the French by Catherine Talbot, and from the Spanish by Anthony Kerrigan. And it's basically about surrealists, women surrealists. Here's kind of a spooky image. Fascinating, a painting from that time frame, the 1930s. Speaking of paintings, a few years ago, during one of our winterims, I scheduled a seminar at the house here where a number of students came to learn how to think like Leonardo da Vinci. You know, there's a famous book years back, oh my gosh, 20 years ago. And I've kind of developed that into a personal seminar that I do. And a number of students came out. One of the things we did was create our own encaustic, which is a painting that after you paint, you melt layers of wax on top of that painting. And this is one of my favorite paintings in all the world by a former student, right? By Mr. Patel. And he gave me this piece. I'm going to try to get my fingers off of it so you can see it. I absolutely love this piece. I don't know what it means. I could probably talk for 30 minutes about what I think it means, but I just find it absolutely delightful. And it has a place here in this cauldron, in this incubation room. Some people call it a study or something. I'm not really sure. So with This Was TV, which I'm trying to get you all interested in, you know, so you can support this Kickstarter campaign, basically to pre-order a compilation of what I've done with This Was TV so far, and then hopefully to add some sort of improvements to it. Not big improvements. I think the charm, if there's any charm to it at all, is that it tries to be personal and honest and just a sharing of odd things, right? In perhaps an interesting setting. And remember, this is not the setting, right? Generally, it's me in the studio, the rec room, down the hall, where I have a projected moving image behind me. One of them as an example for my Halloween show last year, on the wall behind me was that terribly sad scene, the windmill scene at the end of the 1932 James Whale classic Frankenstein, where they finally have trapped the creature, the monster, the representation of the other, and they set the windmill on fire, and he's in there screaming as he is engulfed in flames. And that always changes depending on what the overall theme of an episode of This Is Was TV is. I also read some poetry on occasion, so those of you who have watched This Is Was TV before know that this is a copy of my new book, A Hollow Earth. It was published by the Fungus Multicultural Association in Romania this past July. And I'll read the title poem, and then we'll say goodbye. Here we go. A Hollow Earth. It wasn't an intended consequence of living selfishly or scoffing at God, but more a slow chipping away at what appeared to be solidly underfoot, a connection to the land, a real book to hold in your hand, promises that carried weight. But when I put my ear to the ground, I heard the frightening echo of my own voice and a few others, like steel balls inside a metal globe, centrifugal force holding them firm, then shaken and falling and dropping, ringing sharply with heavy pings. That was originally published in the Tennessee English Journal and republished and made part of this collection by Tanner Murat. That's who put this together, head of the the Fungus Multicultural Association in Romania. So I hope that helps a little bit in explaining to strangers what This Is Was TV does. And I think I'm going to get a little closer and lean in to the camera and say that I'm adding, right? I'm adding a reward. If those of you who haven't yet jumped on board in supporting This Is Was TV, or those of you that already have or are on the fence, please do. I've decided that I'm going to put in all your names in the credits of both of these films, right? Thanking you for being part of these two films. These two films being the This Is Was TV, the film, and Touched. So you get to you get a little piece of immortality, you know, because those things will probably live forever. Hopefully that will tempt you. Support art as best you can, and thank you for watching.